All right. Mm. So I am going to talk about gender dysphoria and gender euphoria in the terms of the movie of my life. I'm looking for my coffee at this moment. I put it down and I don't know where it went. Where did I put it? I put it right behind my chair. Where's it going behind my chair? Am I going to talk in this voice the entire video? I don't think I can do it. Is my coffee done? I think it's done. No, the voice is, I get irritated watching my videos sometimes because of how nervous I get making these videos sometimes, and it is largely what is nervousness? It's worrying about what people think about you, and that is related to the subject of this video. Looking at gender dysphoria and gender euphoria in the terms of the movie of my life. My coffee's not quite done. I mean, it's done, but I didn't get enough water in it. So I only have like 2/3 of a cup. So now I've changed my lighting. I've done messed up my lighting, and I'm not even 5 minutes into the video. Oh! I wonder if I'll damage my vinyl floors if I put the coffee pot on top of it. So I don't know why I'm having difficulty. If I'm not just am I not just sitting in the middle of the bus? What is going on here? There we go. I'm sitting next to a dirty diaper too, so I took my dirty diapers off and threw it in the trash, and it's been sitting there overnight. Gender euphoria and gender dysphoria in the terms of the movie of my life. So first off, what is gender dysphoria and gender euphoria? Dysphoria means to feel bad, and euphoria means to feel good. And so you put that with gender, and it relates to the subject of transgender. It also relates to cisgender. I mean, how do you know if you're cisgender? Well, if you feel good about your gender, then if you have gender euphoria, then that's kind of what it means to be cisgender. And I am talking about this because the question of whether I am trans or not is something that I've been struggling with for, this is 2022. I started around 2014. Actually, it started before then. These kind of, I mean, the first time I ever thought I was a girl, I was 11 years old. And I put it away, but it's kind of been like a, you might say like a snowball effect, where it's like I thought about it once then, and then it just once again like 6 years later, and then once again another 6 years later. But then once I started reading about transgender stuff, then it just kind of, I think 2010 was when I first started actually looking at, maybe 2011 was when I actually started looking at trans stuff. Then that was because there was a trans person at the school that I went to. And I actually just made a video about me looking for solutions to my problem my entire life. So my thing was I was suffering my entire life. Uh, my life was, I was miserable. Uh, I was just not happy. I was not living life. What I felt like was I was just not living life at all. It felt like my life had been put on pause from the time I was a kid. Like, even as a kid, I was unhappy. Like, my happiest moments as a kid were playing Nintendo and things like that. When it came to like interacting with people and things like that, I was very heartbroken almost all the time. And because what I felt like was I couldn't have the relationships that I wanted, and I felt like I could not express myself in the ways that I wanted. And did I not add water? I got a mud puddle in my coffee thing here. It's like the water's not going through into the cup. It's just sitting in the filter. Uh oh, my dirty diaper. Do you want to smell my dirty diaper? If I could put the smell of my dirty diaper into the video, I would put it into the video. No, I'm not drunk. I'm just kind of tired of watching videos of myself nervous and acting in ways to because I'm worried about what you think about my videos. Uh, but yeah, so I was miserable, uh, and I didn't know why for a long time, and so I do question. I don't. Let me preface what I'm talking about here by saying that I don't quite understand what gender dysphoria is. That I'm not an expert on it. And if you were to come to me and say, I think and maybe I have gender dysphoria, help me figure out if I have it or not, I might be kind of like, well, I can try, but I don't quite like if you were to ask me what parts of my life kind of what pick apart the like the gender dysphoria from the traumatic experiences of my life as uh, like say my mother abandoning me when I was 8 years old, and then the misery that followed that. Like, what part of that was her abandoning me, and what part of that was gender dysphoria? I can't say. All I can say is I was not happy. I don't know. Like, I don't know how much of my uh, now, this was something that I talked about in the previous video, the looking for a lifetime of looking for solutions to my problem. That I was unhappy and I was constantly trying to figure out why I was unhappy. And uh, once I got to the transgender idea, once I started thinking that I was trans, once I actually tried, like, seeing myself as a woman. I mentioned that I had actually tried cross dressing as a kid, but I gave up after like one try because I didn't. I was so disappointed in how not like a woman I looked. But when I was starting to think that I might actually be trans, that's when I actually made an effort, you might say, to actually make myself look like a woman. So I bought a dress that was it was not like skin tight, so I wouldn't. I didn't want my male body to interfere, so I bought like a loose, kind of very loose dress. I think I bought a wig, very similar to this one, and I bought some eyeliner, and actually I think I just tried a towel on my head. I don't think I had the wig yet. I think I just put a towel on my head and the dress. Because I remember when I came out on Facebook, I came out with the towel on my head. That was my picture, my coming out picture, and I said something like, "I'm not entirely sure that I am trans, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that I think I am." That's basically how it came out, and kind of been how it's been. That was around 2014 that I did that, and it's been like that pretty much since then. Where it's like I'm not entirely sure that I'm trans. Uh, there's certainly something to me seeing myself as a woman. There is something that I get out of that is healing. I will put it that way. But the idea that it is because of gender dysphoria, that's where I'm a little bit like I'm not entirely sure. Uh, so, could I clearly define what gender dysphoria is? No. I mean, I have a basic, I would call it a basic, kind of rudimentary definition of what gender dysphoria is. Like I said before, dysphoria means to feel bad. And so the way that I see it is that it's, in my own experience, the way that what like just basic idea. I don't want to say the way that I see it, but the way that I've understood it is that. So, for example, if you were born male, you're born with a penis, but say you get to be like 8 or 9 years old, you look in the mirror and you see a boy, and you feel like a little bit of just like distress or anxiety at seeing yourself as a boy. Or maybe you're starting to go through puberty and you're getting like the mustache on your upper lip, and you're like, oh my, like no, 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 kind of thing. For me, I was actually afraid of growing breasts when I was going through puberty. I was quite terrified that I would grow breasts somehow, and basically it was like this feeling that I would be found out, and that I would be rejected. I didn't think that I was trans when I thought that, but I did wonder why I was afraid of growing breasts. But was that what was that? That wasn't gender dysphoria. That was more a fear of rejection, you know. So that's where I'm a little bit like, is it so? Just to make the waters even muddier than they already are, I've been tentatively diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which is characterized by a fear of rejection. It is now, you might say most people have a fear of rejection to some degree, but for at least me, and I'm assuming for people with borderline personality disorder, the fear is debilitating. That it is so bad that they struggle to live effectively, successfully, and that sort of thing, to have healthy, happy lives. Because in my own experience, I think most people fear rejection. I think people who, I mean, like I am surrounded by people who are obsessed with being normal. And what is the obsession with being normal? It is the fear of being rejected. So, I mean, I was wanting to sit so that the front window of the bus was kind of like behind my head, but I seem to not be able to get it to. Maybe I'm just too far away from the front of the bus. Maybe I need to get closer to it. But I'm not going to do that now. Should I do that now? Do you guys want to come with me? As I try to get my right background image. I don't think I can move closer, because there's a hole in the floor in the bus. It's not really a hole. Do I need to move the light or just the chair? I barely have room to get by. Let's see. Let's just see. I might be too far away from the light now. Now my chair's gonna rock. I'm full of all sorts of troubles. No! How's that? No, still not quite what I was hoping for. I don't like these seats being right behind me. I want the window Am I gonna have to get my head like right in front of the window or what? Oh, that's kind of nice right there. Yeah, not too bad. Let's see. No, my hair was supposed to be on this side. I'm going to be a movie director. So, I was miserable. And now, this point that I'm going to say, I feel like is relevant to the rest of the talk here. Uh, I'm a little bit delirious from having made this, just from having made this video like 3 times and just being like, God damn it. You know, every time I watch the result. I need a cameraman is what I need. These Walmart stands, I bought this Walmart stand, that's what the light is. Oh, I almost dropped my tablet. That will not hold a tablet. I bought it for holding my phone, but I just don't like making videos on my phone anymore. I may have to do something, because the thing with the phone is it stops at 26 minutes and 46 seconds. If you record longer than that, it stops and then starts recording right away. So if you record like a 40-minute video, you end up with 2 videos because it basically cuts them into pieces. Which is, it is a problem for me because I don't have a way to put them back together. And I don't want to upload. In the beginning, I was uploading videos in these parts, and I just thought that's annoying. I don't want to have to do that, especially when I noticed that like I get different view numbers. Like I had a 4-part video, and for whatever reason, part 2 got more views than any of the other. I think it was the woman with the penis video that I made, and for whatever reason, part 2 got the most views out of all 4 parts of that video, which I don't understand. But I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to upload whole videos. So I have a way to put the videos together. It's on my desktop computer. The problem is my desktop computer doesn't have its own battery. I have to use the Jackery, which is currently powering the light, but here lately it seems impossible to keep the Jackery charged, because I only have the solar panel to charge it. But then I took it today to Starbucks with me and charged it completely. So now I'm going to drain it by making the same video 5 times with the same light. Yes, you're watching me bash myself live on TV. But if I were a movie director, I think I would make movies that annoy people, and I think it would make me happy. Because I get tired of people pleasing and pandering and that sort of thing. So yeah, I was not happy. Things changed if I haven't said it already, things changed once I started cross-dressing, once I started exploring this transgender stuff. My happiness level started to increase, my self-esteem started to increase. When I call it the transgender realization in 2014, when I put on the wig and the makeup and the dress and all that kind of thing, and I kind of actually saw myself resembling a woman. There was that aha kind of moment. But like I've said, it was never, I felt like I couldn't really take it to the bank, so to speak. It was just like I'm fairly certain this is right, but I want to be sure. I want to feel like I know what I'm talking about if I go up to somebody and say that I'm trans. And so part of that is that question of gender dysphoria. What from my life was actually gender dysphoria? What of that was depression? What of that was borderline personality disorder, fear of rejection type stuff? That's not something I can explain to somebody. Even if I understood it, maybe I wouldn't make a video about that. But I do, for my own sake, would like to kind of understand that. But this is looking at gender dysphoria and gender euphoria in the terms of the movie of my life. Oh. What is the movie of my life? Did I give an adequate definition of dysphoria and euphoria? I suggest looking it up if I didn't. The movie of my life. If my life were a movie, and I look back at the movie that my life has been so far, I would say this has been I don't want to say it was a bad movie, but it was a movie that I just feel like I don't care to watch it. Like it was just I would describe it as not the movie that I want to watch. I'll put it that way. I feel like it was just, because it's not like I hate my own life. But at the same time, put it another way, I kind of feel like it's not the sort of thing I would want to show to other people. I kind of feel like if someone were to ask me, like, do you think I'd want to watch the movie of your life? I'd be like, yeah, maybe. If you're just curious about seeing someone else's life, because I'm kind of like that. Like I'm curious to see other people's life and that kind of thing. And so in that same sort of, just out of curiosity, yeah, I'd watch it. But I just feel like, as like an adventure or that sort of thing, I just feel like it would be a very grueling movie to watch. I'm looking at it and I'm just like thinking to the character in the movie, like, what are you doing? Like, why is it taking so long for this? Like, this is a movie without any kind of, like, it's just not going anywhere. It's like just the same thing over and over and over and over. There's no. It's like we're still in Act 1. You're in your 40s and you're still in Act 1. You haven't gotten to Act 2 yet. That sort of thing. But that's not really where I'm coming from when I sat down to make this video. I'm making this video because here recently, things have changed to where I can actually see. I can start to see a movie that I actually want to watch, and I say that because I had that experience yesterday. You might say for the first time in my life. So today, as I was walking, thinking about that experience I had, I tried to picture myself as a man, like in a movie, like, and just think, what kind of movie would I, if I saw this guy in it, I would think I would want to watch that. And I couldn't see one. The closest thing that comes to mind is Dead Poet Society. That's one of my favorite movies. And I thought, because when I watch Dead Poet Society, I can't help but notice that the male characters. I mean, they're all almost all male characters in that movie, but they are quite effeminate. They are not like the typical male heroes in like a man's movie. And I wouldn't describe Dead Poet Society as a man's movie, a gentleman's movie maybe, but I think one of the reasons why I like it is it's not a typical man's movie, but it still has this kind of it's about breaking out of the normal life. It's about breaking out of the mundane and the monotonous, which is basically what my life has been, and making your life the movie that you want to watch. And that's kind of where I'm getting at is, me wanting to make my life the movie that I want to watch. And I was hoping to make a more succinct and straight to the point video than my previous 4 takes on this, but this one, apparently my intention caused me to just go in the total opposite direction, just not even give a fuck about being succinct and straight to the point, and just to go off on every single fucking tangent I find. Oh, me. And I think that is because I'm just getting tired of just like the stress of trying to be perfect all the time. And to be a people pleaser and a panderer and all that kind of stuff. So I am going to get to the point, though, hopefully, or get to a point anyways. Like I said, I don't really know what gender dysphoria is, but I do know that yesterday. Now, let me back up and finish what I was saying about the trying to see the man in this movie. What I think is that it's not a coincidence that when I try to picture that man in a movie, and I feel like there is just no movie that I want to see him in. I don't think it's a coincidence that when I lived as that man, my life was pointless. I felt like I had no reason to live. I felt like my only reason to live was to find a reason not to kill myself. That was my life. Pretty much from the time that I was a kid. Now, I didn't think about suicide when I was a kid. The first time I thought about suicide was when I was 18. And I didn't kill myself, but I didn't kill myself because I had this notion. I said, God wouldn't put me here for no reason. There has to be some better life for me than what I've been living, and so I'm going to find it. I'm going to find out. I'm going to find my reason to live. My reason to live for pretty much since then was to find a reason to live. That was it. And I talked about in another video, I think I have uploaded it. I can't remember. I've made so many videos and deleted them or whatever, but I talked about how that man just had no will of his own. It was like his life was basically just about getting validation from other people. Like the highest achievement that I felt like I could hope to achieve was to become a famous painter in the kind of stratosphere with Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci. And but that's not because I wanted to paint. It's not because there was a painting that I wanted to paint. It was more because I wanted that validation. I wanted people to look at me and say, we see your value as a human being. and and so for that reason, it wasn't a movie that I wanted to watch. Like, I don't really care to see myself become a famous painter. I would like to, but not enough that I'm going to spend like 8 hours a day learning how to paint. I think it could be interesting to be a famous painter, but I also feel like that's just not a reason to live. Especially when art comes from, it does not come from the vacuum of my brain. And I don't mean to downplay my brain, but what I'm saying is, like, I myself don't create masterpieces. Anytime I write anything good or paint anything good, it's like it just comes out of me. And it's like it says in the Tao Te Ching, the best thing I can do is just stand out of the way and just kind of let these things out. So yeah, so I kind of see it as, I have the potential to be a great painter, but I don't have the actual vision. Like, I don't actually see a masterpiece that I want to paint. So this dream of becoming Michelangelo isn't really about me attaining painting the picture that I want to paint. It is about me having his level of admiration and that sort of thing. So yeah, I feel like that's just not a for me. That's just not a reason to live. Like, I still, that doesn't save me from wanting to kill myself. So if I had a masterpiece in mind, if I had a vision of what I wanted to paint, uh, and I felt like that was my life's purpose, then yeah, maybe I could go for that. But I don't. Uh, but that man was his life was pointless. It was very. It was just a constant. I talk about this in my the video I think that I just mentioned, but it was about the lifetime of finding solutions to my problem. Because that's what his life was. It was basically just a constant, like, something feels wrong constantly, and I'm trying to find the solution kind of thing. Nothing satisfies me. Certain things give me relief from the pain of my existence, but nothing just feels like life. It feels like I'm not living my life, and it feels like there's nothing I can do to live my life, or to feel like I'm living my life. So that's when I mean when I say I feel like there's not a coincidence that when I tried to picture that man in a movie, there's no movie that I want to see him in. And of course, when now I've been taking HRT for 9.5 months, and the changes are noticeable. And which is to say that I'm starting to look more like a woman than I did before. And there are times, like yesterday, when I was watching a video that I made the night before. So, like, I woke up yesterday morning and I picked up my I think it was on the tablet. No, it was on the phone. So it was the night before that. No, it was yesterday. I can't remember. my days blurred together. But so I was watching myself in this video that I had recorded the night before, whatever day it was, yesterday or the day before, and and I see a woman in this video that I feel like is new to me. I see this woman that I feel like this is not somebody that I'm accustomed to seeing. I see somebody that is not me. That is, it's almost like a different person. But the person that I'm looking at, there's a movie that I want to see her in, and this image popped in my, I wasn't thinking this, like I didn't think this when the image popped in my head. It was like it just popped in my head, and there was this movie that this trans woman that I'm seeing, who is very powerful and has a very high self-esteem compared to the man that I used to be, and she goes to Washington, D.C. She becomes a high dollar escort, transgender escort. Bottom surgery or no, I wasn't really into that. But it was just I knew it was definitely a trans person because it is me. And this high dollar trans escort goes to Washington, D.C., starts meeting powerful, rich, powerful, influential men and women who want to pay her for dates. I don't mean for sex or for blowjobs. I mean for actual, like, come spend time with me, keep me company, let's have a conversation, hold my hand even, or whatever, but just come spend time with me, we'll go home back to my place and have sex, and then you can take off in the morning or whatever, that sort of thing. But that trans woman wasn't just like making money by pleasing other people. It was also, she was influencing things that happened in that city through these connections that she was making. Because she wasn't just, it was partly about the connections that she was making, and her, because one of the things that I do have is a desire to be close to people. I've kind of lived my life kind of feeling like I would have sex with everybody. But when I saw this, I thought, this is a movie that I want to see. I actually thought to write this out in a novel, and then the next thought was, I don't want to write that. I want to live that. And that's where, like, this gender dysphoria, gender euphoria, kind of in the terms of my life as a movie, or the movie of my life, that's where that kind of, like, it kind of became clear. Like, it was like, I don't need to accomplish anything, really, like in the sense of being like a great painter. Like, I don't need to spend 8 hours a day to achieve my life's dream. Because I already have the ability to just do what I want. I can start living the movie now, so to speak. Like, I don't have to win any awards or win any acclaim to be the person that I want to see in the movie. I can just go out and do it. And I'm not going to say that my purpose in life is to become a prostitute or an escort, but it certainly does not feel far removed from my purpose in life. And that is, my friend keeps telling me to become a prostitute, and I think, sometimes I think that's just his prejudice or his bias, but sometimes I think my friend is actually trying to encourage me to do what I already want to do. But yeah, I'm not going to say, like, here and now that my purpose in life is to be a prostitute. But uh, but with that movie that I saw in my head, with that seeing that woman, that image of that woman who was beautiful and sexy and had the ability to seduce people, uh, and then through her ability to seduce, to influence and that sort of thing, that just seemed like part of it could be just part of that was like it's just like this novel thing for me, like I novel in the sense that like that's not a story I've seen before, except the only time I've seen that story before was in Memoirs of a Geisha. That was the closest thing to a movie, an actual movie, where I saw something that actually interested me. I mean, Memoirs of a Geisha, is that a man's movie or a woman's movie? Is that a movie just for everybody? Uh, for me, that was the only movie with a female character where I actually thought that could be an interesting life, for me. My chief complaint about that movie was the way that it ended. Because one, when I look at, so let me back up a little bit and say that I've tried to think of my life about in terms of like the movie that I want to see, but I've also thought about it in terms of movie that I've already seen. So like I think about like movies that I've watched, and I think about like male characters that I've seen and female characters that I've seen, and I wonder like because gender dysphoria doesn't just apply to what you look like, that is part of it, but it also applies to the role that you play kind of in life and in society. Like, are you a wife? Are you a husband? Are you a mother? Are you a father? A sister or a brother? These sorts of things. And these are, you might say, roles. Sister and brother may not be so much of a role, but uh, characters play roles, right? In a movie, the characters plays a role. So, like you have in movies, you have certain roles. Like you have the hero, and you have the damsel in distress. Like, if I'm watching a movie, who would I rather be, the hero or the damsel in distress? Really, I don't want to be either of those. I mean, most of the time, I like to think of myself as a hero. But if being a hero means beating up the bad guy and then getting the girl, then I'm like, that just doesn't appeal to me. Uh, One of the reasons why I like Star Wars was because Luke Skywalker doesn't kill Darth Vader. If that movie had basically been about him, getting to the end and he goes and cuts off Darth Vader's head and that's the end of the movie, I'd be like, man, you kind of ruin the movie because it's just typical, kind of like, from my perspective, when I watch those movies, they can be interesting. I mean, those like I'm thinking of like the Thor movie that I watched, the last one. I can't remember which one it was, or any comic book movie. What is the typical story? It's you got the good guy and then you got the bad guy, and the good guy beats up the bad guy, and I'm like, so, in some cases that can be entertaining, but as like for me, like living my life, I feel like that's not a life. That's not interesting for me. I feel like there is no villain out there in the world that by conquering him, I'm going to somehow justify my own existence. And I do feel this is why I study religion and philosophy and these sorts of things, because I've always felt like the only villain that I have to defeat is the one inside of myself. And like winning battles it would be good to win battles. I don't want to die, but at the same time, I don't feel like even fighting battles is the way for me to attain like a feeling that I'm living like my life's purpose. So when it comes to watching movies, it's very, I really don't feel like there are many movies out there where I watch that, and I think that's where I want to be. That's where I want to go. Uh, so I may have mentioned it already. Dead Poet Society is one of my favorite movies. I'm mentioning it because I just watched it recently for like the 200th time in my life. I don't remember what year it came out, but I know I was watching it when I was in high school. I'm 46 years old. And when I watch that, I don't. That's also not a movie where I'm like, I want to be these guys. Like there's nothing like that in that. But because for that, in that case, it is more just kind of the message of that movie, that carpe diem, that chase your dreams and that sort of thing, that makes it appeal to me. So, like I cannot think of a movie really where the character in the movie I felt like was living the life that I wanted to live. Uh, I watch a lot of movies. I find them interesting. But Memoirs with a Geisha probably comes the closest to a character living a life that I thought that might fit me. Uh, when I watched it, I'm thinking of it now looking back, but when I watched it, I don't remember thinking that that could be me. I don't remember thinking that, yeah, I want to do that. Uh, I, but I did think that once I started with the cross dressing and that sort of thing, I remember kind of this idea that, I could be a geisha. Uh, and I may have to go back and watch that movie again. I was so I wasn't in love with that movie. I really liked it. I also really liked the soundtrack by John Williams, which was something that I listened to aside from the movie. Like if you go on like Spotify, you can find the soundtrack to that movie and just listen to it. Uh, Uh, yeah, I may actually go back. Well, no, I don't have internet out here right now, so I can't. But yeah, so the whole movie of my life thing, I feel like that for me is uh, the closest thing for me, anyways, to kind of discerning between the gender dysphoria and, say, the borderline personality disorder or the trauma from my mother abandoning me, sort of thing. As far as what makes me happy and what makes me miserable, because when I saw that woman having just maneuvering and the things that she was doing, I just felt like that it made me happy. It made me feel like my purpose in life was just to do what I want, and uh, because in that sense I was doing what I wanted, because in my own life I do want to influence things, and I do want connections with people, and I don't like the idea of prostituting myself, like just like going out to the street and giving a hand job or a blow job for $20. Uh, I did write about that once in a poem, and I do now wonder why I wrote about that. I do wonder if that was me in some way. I don't know, just wondering about what about that life. The poem went, industry serves the right prostitution. Hard labor on a busy street. The graffiti eye score matches the trail of cum across her dress. And so in my head, I was picturing myself in the car with a prostitute, and I was looking at her dress and noticing, or actually, I was picturing in the beginning, I was picturing like this woman standing on a on the side of a busy street and picking up somebody, and then I'm in the car with her, not because she picked me up, but because I'm just kind of witnessing what she is going through, and I see the lap of her dress, and it has just cum just trailed across it, and that image of that cum across her dress just reminded me, or matched, as I say in the poem, that it matched the graffiti that I've just painted on the side of a building. Because that was kind of how I saw, in that sense, prostitution. That it was a sort of akin to vandalism, and that is kind of how I see prostitution, in a way that it is, I don't want to say profaning the sacred, but that whole thing of just like giving a blowjob for $20 just seemed like cheap. It reminds me of capitalism, which was why I started off with that line: industry serves the right prostitution. But yeah, I didn't make this video to talk about prostitution, but it is something that I'm thinking about. It is something that's been on my mind, partly because my friend keeps telling me to do it. Literally, like, he's like, just go be a prostitute, and that's because I'm having trouble with money at the moment. Having trouble finding a job that satisfies. But let me throw this in the mix while I'm on the subject. One of the things that I read about, I studied religion for a while. By a while, I mean for years. Like, I've studied religion for at least 7 years, and not like in college, but like just going online and reading stuff. And I don't mean like Facebook posts, but I mean like finding like ebooks or articles and stuff like that, and like the whole thing of being transgender. If you study religion long enough, you'll find instances of being trans in the history of religion. I believe there's a little bit of debate in some cases. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember the exact details, but if you look at like ancient Babylon, Mesopotamia, I do believe that there was a certain class of priests that were transgender women, and I don't know as far what their view of like sex and prostitution was, but if you look up that the Hebrew tradition or culture was largely influenced by that Mesopotamian culture, which is in the Bible. Like it says that Abraham was from the city of Ur, which was a Mesopotamian city. So he brought his tradition with him from Ur of Chaldea. Ur of Chaldea, I believe, is what it's called, which was a Mesopotamian place. So I'm not going to say that Abraham was a prostitute. But if you read the Bible, there are words that will come up that I don't know if they're translated in the Bible. I think they might be translated as sacred. But I remember reading about this. In the past, they had what were called sacred prostitutes. So that who, as far as I know, lived in the temple. So they would have a temple to the god or the goddess, depending on where you lived. And they had sacred prostitutes who basically just worked in the temple. They stayed in the temple, and they were the priest and the prostitute at the same time, if that makes sense. Because depending on where you lived at that time, the view of God was that God was a whore, right? God loved everybody. God loves everybody, so the priest loves everybody too. But in the Bible, there's a term in Hebrew. The word is kadesh, and there's Kadash and there's Kadesh, and I don't remember which one is which. One of them is the male and one of them is the female. So I think Kadesh was the male sacred prostitute, and that's where the contention is what does that word actually mean? And yeah. But if you look, just if you're interested in religion or the history of religion, you can just look up like sacred prostitute, and you'll see that was a thing of the past. And so I wonder sometimes about that, like there was a city-state in ancient Greece. I don't know, it was one or more city-states in ancient Greece where for a girl to become a woman, she had to prostitute herself at the temple of the goddess. She had to stay there until somebody bought her, you know. So people had a different view of prostitution in the past than they do now. But that doesn't mean that a sacred prostitute is the same as a profane prostitute. Is there a difference between sacred prostitution and profane prostitution? Or is all prostitution sacred? Why is it even prostitution? You know? Does God charge? You know, if I say, God, give me some love, does God say, well, give me some money? Why would a prostitute, why would a priest charge money? To pay for the temple? I don't know. You can also read about the transgender priests in the ancient Rome. They were called the Galli priests, Galli. I don't know that they were prostitutes. I don't know anything about that. But they were a group of priests who were transgender. They would bleach their hair blonde in imitation of the goddess that they worshipped. That's according to Wikipedia. So, if you trust Wikipedia, I don't know why anybody would just make that up, though. So I don't know. Yeah. So my friend was writing that, telling me to become a prostitute for the Hell's Angels. He didn't say become a prostitute for Hell's Angels or something like that. He said, "Could you ever be in Hell's Angels?" I was like, "No, I don't think so." He's like, "You could be a prostitute for Hell's Angels." He's like, "They're into drugs and that kind of thing." And I was like, "Well, that actually sounds kind of interesting." So I had been working on a story about a transgender person, trans woman, and I thought that actually makes that story more interesting if I put that in the story about this character becoming a prostitute for a biker gang. Uh, so I'm not going to say that I want to be a prostitute for a biker gang, but it certainly, for me, livened up that story. I just felt like it just gave it more. Uh, it just wasn't as boring. Before that, it was like it was just kind of going in this typical direction where I was like this trans kid or this boy uh, discovers that he's trans. He's just left the party where he's basically rejected. He because they're doing drugs at the party, and he has fucked up the vibe of the party through his anxiety and his kind of insecurity and that kind of thing. His panic. He was panic. He starts off the scene just in a panic state, panic attack, whatever, a drug-induced panic attack. And his the girl that he's there with, who was his friend, they're not dating, but he's there at the party with a friend of his, a girl, and she takes him back to her place to because she's concerned for him because he kind of had this freak out experience, and she puts she suggests after she's given him an anti-anxiety pill, she suggests that he tries on her clothes just to kind of get his mind off of whatever it was on. And so he does it, and suddenly he feels aroused, and he has sex with her there for the first time. And it's an amazing experience for both of them. And he's like, "What the fuck just happened?" And that's when he goes into this kind of like, "I think I'm trans" kind of thing. And the story after that, that's really one like the only interesting scene I had so far, and which was that scene for me is like a scene that I want to watch, and but then he kind of just wanders around, kind of lost, and kind of this sort of thing, and I'm like, what? How does he end up at the end of this movie? And I thought like he comes a psychologist, he starts helping other trans or just other people in general. I was like, that just seems very typical, almost just boring. I really don't want to watch that. So that was kind of the direction that I was going. Like, he becomes like this psychologist, this transgender psychologist. I also had a scene where he's going to church, and the pastor of the church had, I think, condemned homosexuals or something. But then I had the story end with him as a tranny, like a she-male, having sex with the preacher, like penetrating the preacher, and the preacher just loving it. But I thought that's cheesy. It's not like that's not something that, like, for my own life, that's not something that I feel like would be satisfying. Like getting being having it vindictive sex. It's just not. That's not satisfying, you know. Fucking the preacher to get back at him for condemning gays is not something that I feel like I want. Uh, I would actually rather fuck the preacher because I love him and I want to save his soul. you know, uh, you know, I'm like, see, look, trannies are great. You know, homosexuality is great. You're gonna love it. God wants you to do it. Uh, yeah, no. But then so I put in that after kind of this period of just being totally lost, he ends up hooking up with a biker guy, and that's his first sexual experience with the guy, and he's doing it as a trans at this point. He's dressed up as a woman and that kind of thing. At some point, he starts the hormone replacement therapy. He starts to become actually sexy as a woman, and then the other bikers and this guy's, his group are interested, and he's like, well, yeah, you can, if you want to have sex, you gotta pay, you know, and basically he starts pimping her out. Which for me is interesting because that is a challenge that I feel like is an actually interesting challenge for trans or for just a woman. Uh, Having to deal with that, having to uh, being in that situation where you're potentially, there's a pretty good potential for abuse or that sort of thing. I'm not saying it's interesting for women to be abused, but to be in those situations and to overcome it, to get on top of it, which is what I saw her doing in that instance, where she joins this biker gang basically as a prostitute, but ends up getting on top of it and getting to the point where she's now the one telling people what to do, because people will have so much I don't want to say respect. Well, I guess it is respect, uh, but they see that she's just not afraid of them. It's like so that sounds a little bit over the top for me. Like that's one of those things where I kind of have a hard time believing that, especially for me. If that was me and that biker gang, I'd be like, they'd probably just rape me and kill me, So, I don't know if I buy this alpha tranny bit uh, with the penis going around, you know. But that was something that I felt like I wanted to see. I felt like that scene that where she becomes this biker gang prostitute, and how does she deal with that, was actually a scene that I wanted to see. How does she overcome that? How does she get on top of that? That was kind of what I was interested in. Uh, right now, I'm fairly certain that scene is going to go into that story, and I don't want to ruin the story for you if you are interested in reading it, but she gets out of that situation because another girl is thrown into the mix, a cis girl, and she's not respected. She's kind of mistreated, and the trans character falls in love with her, and they end up leaving to get away from that environment because of her love for the cis girl. She feels like the best thing to do is just to get away from that situation, and they fall in love with each other, and at the moment that's where that story ends. But that, I don't know if I said it, but that was my issue with the story of the Memoirs of a Geisha, because that ends with her basically she gets the guy that she wants, and I was like, that's just typical girl movie trope. Like, I don't really care to see that. What I did like was the image of like this trans woman riding off into the sunset on her motorcycle, her Harley Davidson, with this cis girl behind her who's just madly in love with her, and that just seemed like a nice image for me. So yeah. Does that prove that I'm trans? Does that mean that does that have anything to do with gender euphoria or gender dysphoria? I see that as possible for the woman. When I see the woman, myself as a woman, when I see myself as a man, I think maybe that's possible, but I just feel like that's just not the right character for that role. How else do you put it? This talk went in a completely different direction than the first four, and I'm kind of glad that I did it. But yeah, I'll just watch this one and see how it goes, and I don't really feel like making another one of these, so this might be the one that goes up, because I think I deleted most of the other ones already. So goodbye, folks. don't become prostitutes. Don't leave your dirty diapers in the trash.